This is working out the kinks in StreamYard.
We good? We good? We got it?
Yeah. I think so.
Okay. All right.
I mean, you got two guys. I'm not tech savvy at all. So just throwing it out there. I set all this up today. It was
No, I mean,
I was just worried that it was going to launch because I was going to have a couple weeks ago I was going to have Coach JB on, and I completely botched it. But I was talking. Will Howard transfers to Ohio State. Will Howard to Ohio
how about
State.
that?
I mean, it's
Yeah.
He's good. I mean,
That's something.
he is.
That's.
I think it's telling
Is
with.
he the?
What was that?
I said, do you think he's the answer?
Do I think he's the answer? I don't know if he'll be the answer, but I think it just upgrades the level in that quarterback room because you got Aaron Nolan coming in, you got Lincoln Keenholz, and you have Devin Brown there, and then you add Will Howard in there, and I watched the 22 film, I watched the offensive film for Ohio State, and I'm just like, man, that is tough. You could tell Lincoln looked like a scout team guy, and then you had Devin that got hurt again. But the question I have is was Devin ever really healthy throughout the year?
Yeah, I don't think so. No, I mean, I think the beginning of the year he was probably healthy. He started the year healthy. I think ultimately Kyle won the job because he was more consistent than Devin. I mean, I think that was the only thing was like there was less downside with Kyle. But I don't think we ever got a full picture of what Devin Brown is, right? Like we've never seen him play a full game.
No, and I just feel like there's so much more to Devin Brown that needs to be like unlocked, and I don't think that. I mean, I'm going to cut it to you straight. This is just my opinion. Looking at what that quarterback situation was for Ohio State, this is a whole domino effect from when Quinn Ewers transferred out. When Quinn transferred out, that set a whole thing into motion. And for me, I just don't know how Quinn leaving would leave that big of a gap within the program. That's fair. And
I'm with you on that.
Because I mean, I know you're a Notre Dame fan, but you live in Columbus.
Well, yeah, and I'm a hybrid.
Yeah.
Right? Like I'm a Buckeye first, Notre Dame fan second. But yeah, no, I think Quinn Ewers, when he transferred out, it really set the program back. But I think the reason that is because I think Ryan Day was so set on Kyle McCord that he thought Kyle McCord was going to be much more than he was, right? Like he took Kyle over JJ, right? JJ McCarthy. He obviously thought that Kyle was a better prospect than JJ McCarthy. Now, we can argue that till we're blue in the face. The answer is very simple. JJ McCarthy is a better player than Kyle McCord ever was.
And that's fair, because trying to an eval on a kid that's 17, 18 years old. What is he going to be when he's 21, 22?
Mm-hmm.
At the on the
Yep.
backside, it's hard. It's really hard to project that. And I just feel like in the past, the Ohio State quarterbacks, you could take it back all the way to Barton's days. Troy Smith, Terrell Pryor,
Mm-hmm.
Braxton Miller,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
JT, Carnell, Dwayne. All them guys all have one thing in common. They and people say, "Oh, you're living in the past. You're living in the past." No, I'm not living in the past. Those guys would sit down and grind their face off to beat anybody, anywhere, anytime. And and I think
Well,
Ryan is
what?
look.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
Go ahead. Uh,
No.
I
So what
just
I think the main difference between all those people you just mentioned and like let's say Kyle McCord or whoever, the main difference between them is those guys were all dudes, right? Like they were all dudes. And Kyle just wasn't a dude. Like he wasn't a guy. Like he was not like, and you could see it this year in competition, especially even against Notre Dame or against whoever. Like against Notre Dame, he made a great pass to win the game for sure, 100%. Give him his credit, give him his roses, right, or give him his flowers, whatever. But at the at the end of the day, that guy was not a competitor, right?
oh
And the dudes you just named, Troy Smith, right? That guy's a dog. Like he would go out and he would fight his face off for anybody at any time. Dwayne Haskins, C.J. Stroud, even a little bit. I mean, all the quarterbacks that have come before Kyle McCord were all dudes and they weren't like JT Barrett. He's not a good quarterback, but games on the line, I'm giving JT the ball, and he's getting that first down. I don't care what Michigan says. He got it. He wasn't short. But at the end of the day, you couldn't give Kyle McCord the ball at the end of a game and know for sure he's going to get it done.
exactly, exactly. I just in I feel like in which it's been talked about on Minister Sports with
Shout out.
Zach. Shout out Minister Sports.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, shout out Minister Sports. It's been talked about, and I feel like a lot of people around the program were alleviated when Kyle decided to hit the transfer portal because I know where I was
Mhm.
at. I was I was sitting in my
Yeah,
morning meeting for work, and it came across on Twitter. I'm like, holy
hmm
shit!
yeah.
And
So I think, I mean, my understanding of it, and again, I'm not connected in any way. I don't know exactly the conversations that were had or anything that went down, but I think everybody in the program, players, coaches, everybody was alleviated when Kyle left, and the reason is because I think there was a good portion of the program, at least 50%, that wanted Devin to be the guy this year, and Ryan made a business decision, right? Because if Ryan Day goes out there and goes 9-3 because Devin isn't up to par, Ryan maybe loses his job. He knew Kyle could take him 11-0 into the Michigan game because let's be honest, they played zero teams before Michigan. Again, you see it right over here. I'm a Notre Dame fan. Notre Dame wasn't legit. So they didn't play a single team. And he knew Kyle could beat Notre Dame, Kyle could beat Penn State. And if he gets Kyle up to par, maybe they beat Michigan. But he was not willing to risk Devin cutting his teeth and getting it through to that point. So he made a business decision. He played Kyle because Kyle was the safe option.
oh,
I think 50% of the program at least thought that Devin was the better player.
Before before you hopped on and we started doing this, I
Mm-hmm.
cheated a little bit and I went back and watched the
Mm-hmm.
Michigan game of the 2022 that Zach broke down,
Yep.
and you can see it on the receivers. There's a couple there's like three specific plays. Julian Fleming, they run a smash corner and
Okay.
he throws it to Marv, and Julian is beating up the air in the end zone because he knows that that's the throw. And Julian's been
Yeah.
around for a while, and he didn't. I have my own reservations about him, but he did not pan out like everybody had thought. You know, this 5-star didn't
Yeah.
he
Number
didn't
one
live
player in the country, man.
didn't live up to the
No.
expectation, and um, it's how do I want to say, it's very telling when the receivers have horrendous body language when you're the quarterback.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, because I mean, so I think Heartline said that they had 4 first round receivers in their room this year, right? I believe that was the quote. Like they have 4 first round receivers, right? And I'm not saying that he's wrong, but guess what? There's only 1 first round receiver leaving.
Right. And
And is that an indictment on Heartline, or is that because quarterback play was bad?
well,
Uh huh.
it
Uh-huh.
it it
A
the
little bit of
prop
both.
the problems that I see are the same things as last year. Perimeter blocking, knowing knowing on
Mm-hmm.
screenplays, knowing your assignments as far as where to run the ball when you catch a bubble as a receiver, go against the leverage or towards the leverage or reading blocks. Things like that is the same things that I see in the film room,
Yeah.
and they're easy fixes that can be coached and corrected, because I look at it as you either coach it or you allow it, and they're allowing it. And
Mm-hmm.
it blows me away. You have drop balls, you have piss poor body language, you have no downfield blocking, and what what do you expect to do on the perimeter run when things like that aren't going? I mean,
Yeah.
it's not zone 6 anymore because the guy that created it said it in the film room.
Well.
But
No, you're
but
right. You're right. No, so the biggest thing that I see when it comes to the receivers is they don't block, and I this is an Urban Meyer, I guess, mantra or thing is like the number one things our receivers will do. If you're an Urban Meyer guy, they're gonna block the fuck out of people, right?
hmm
Like I don't care. Like I don't care about anything else. Like because if the receivers block, everything else is easy, right? You can get a swing pass out to a running back. You can get out on the edge. You can use your speed. But the thing right now is Ohio State has a bunch of talent, a bunch of speed, a bunch of everything, but they can't use that because the perimeter blocking is so bad.
Oh, 100%, because Cade's leaving this year, and
Mm-hmm.
in for as much as people love that story, Cade's a liability in run blocking. He is. He's a
Yeah.
liability in run blocking. And and from what I seen from that film at the Cotton Bowl, fucking G. Scott would be walking back to Columbus if it was up to me, because it was
Well, that's
horrendous.
yeah, that's the problem though, because Cade might be a liability, but what's behind him is worse.
Oh yeah, I mean, at least Cade gives a formidable effort.
Yeah.
There's a lot of times this year in the scheme that they were running, he got matched up on defensive ends and top flight linebackers. And did he hold his own? he wasn't getting embarrassed. He wasn't getting kicked out the
No,
club, but
he held his own, but he wasn't like he wasn't top notch, but he wasn't getting embarrassed exactly. But the thing with it is, the tight end is such an important position in this offense, and Cade was. I mean, there will be no Cade slander around here because he was excellent at a lot of things.
hmm
But you're right. He did miss a little bit on the run blocking and things like that, but that wasn't the problem.
no, it was more of the blocking out on the perimeter, in my opinion. And there
Oh, for
was
sure. Yeah.
there was a pretty big play that happened in the Cotton Bowl right at the end of the game where Missouri shows zero blitz. You
Mhm.
have four wideouts, a running back, and they are lined up ready to run a play. The only person that's waving their hands is Emeka Egbuka, like, hey, it's hot. Somebody's got to be
Yeah.
hot. And nobody else, the three other receivers are not looking in the backfield because, one, they're freshmen, sophomores, and they don't know. And I think that's an indictment on coaching 100%, in my
Well, they
opinion.
also, yeah, 100%. I agree. But also, who is the quarterback?
It was Lincoln, but he was probably running scout team all year.
Yeah,
All them
he
all them
wasn't ready at all.
No, no, not even
Not at
close.
all. Not at all. Like you can say hot, hot, hot. You can have your hand up. It doesn't matter. He doesn't know. Uh, my opinion, he didn't know what the fuck was going on. Right?
It,
Like he couldn't look at that and see that's a hot route. That he couldn't see anything. He was just hoping not to die.
and
And that's an indictment on coaching because he wasn't ready to play. It's an indictment on, and I love Justin Fry, but it's an indictment on the O line coach because he knew I have to whatever the fuck we're running, I have to run it because I can't trust them to give me even half a second to read this hot route. So even if he was ready, I don't think that's happening. Now, my question to you is you got this guy, right? Lincoln Keenholz, West Dakota Heisman, whatever you want to call him, right? Right? He
uh-huh.
is a true freshman who's been running scout team all year. Okay. You go into the bowl game, you got Devin Brown who has been running with the twos all year. He's finally running with the ones. What the fuck is Tristan Gebbia doing?
I looked at the roster and I knew you were going to bring that up.
Because
I
I'll be honest, I watched Tristan Gebbia before he transferred. He's not a great quarterback. I'm not saying that, but the dude has played college football. That's something that Lincoln Keenholz has never done. So why are you running Lincoln Keenholz out there who has been with the scout team all year, has no idea what the hell's going on? Like at least put a guy in who has played a game.
Now this is I think this is an overall problem with inside the Woody because if you remember right before that guy Quinn Ewers we brought up earlier,
Yep.
he played against I think we were blowing Michigan State out. He played
Yeah.
against Michigan State
Mhm.
and Kyle played, Quinn didn't.
Yeah, I mean, and that just goes back to I think, and again, I'll be the first to tell you, I'm not connected at all. I don't talk to anybody at the Woody. I don't know any like but Kyle was Ryan's guy. Okay,
Yes.
Ryan specifically picked Kyle. Said Kyle is going to be a dude.
Mm-hmm.
He brought Quinn in because Quinn was all everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, all right, cool. You can sit behind Kyle. when Kyle gets drafted in the first round, because that's what he thought about him. He's a first round draft pick. I'm a get him there. Once he goes, then it's Quinn's program.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is Ryan didn't recognize what Kyle was.
Well, a lot of times I feel when it comes to the quarterback room at Ohio State was very complex because you got to remember under Urban, Joe Burrow was sitting in there. Nobody even knew who Joe Burrow was.
Let's talk about that for a second before you move on, okay? Because I was a little bit connected when Joe Burrow was there. Okay, Joe Burrow was always thought of as, he could be good, right? Like he could be good, but he got hurt in spring before Dwayne Haskins won the job. And people always throw this out like, how could Urban Meyer pick Dwayne Haskins over Joe Burrow? Well, Joe Burrow wasn't even a guy. Like he was hurt that spring, so he went with the guy that and mind you, Dwayne Haskins was.
He threw 50 touchdown
Yeah,
passes.
exactly. Like, let's not forget that Dwayne Haskins was a fucking dude. And Joe Burrow went down to LSU, and he was mediocre his first year.
Right.
Okay. Now, obviously, Joe Brady, Jamar Chase, all the Justin Jefferson, all the weapons, he morphed into what he is now, which is obvious to look back and say, like, how could you ever pick Dwayne Haskins over Joe Burrow? Well, yeah, obviously now you would say that. But when Joe Burrow was in the room at Ohio State, he wasn't better than Dwayne Haskins. He wasn't better than JT Barrett. Otherwise, he would have started.
And I think a thing when it comes back to the Burrow situation, he didn't want to wait another year. So he
He
decided,
couldn't wait. He was running out of eligibility. He needed to get his he needed to go play, and he didn't
mhm,
know for sure that he would be the. He didn't. I mean, because Dwayne Haskins wasn't a guarantee that he would leave after that year, right? Because
right.
he still had a year of eligibility, so he could have come back. And Joe Burrow's last year of eligibility, he would have sat behind Dwayne Haskins again.
Pivot Quinn Ewers. Because
Exactly
that
why Quinn left.
it's the exact same situation
Yep.
because
Mhm.
who knows? I mean, CJ was the second pick in the draft, and watching that tape all the last year, all that stuff Zach broke down.
Mhm.
I'm not shocked that CJ Stroud would be in the top 10 in passing in the NFL. I'm not shocked.
No, anybody that is didn't want him,
Exactly. And
and anybody that, and I'm not a Bryce Young hater, but anyone that thought that, and if CJ went to the Panthers instead of the Texans, the rules might be reversed because I don't think Bryce Young is that much worse than CJ Stroud. He just got put into a better position, and you wouldn't have thought that going in. He just happened to luck into having DeMarco Ryans, who is, I think, an excellent coach.
that and it's also something that, since we've pivoted into the NFL, I
Yeah.
think a lot of people don't realize. I mean, you've seen football from behind the scenes way
Mhm.
more than the average person,
Yeah.
but from somebody that's an outsider looking in, if you look at Sam Darnold that went to the Jets, he had four offensive coordinators in 4 years. How
Well,
do you
yeah, I mean, you can't do that. I mean, look at Baker Mayfield. All right, Baker Mayfield had, I think it was 4 head coaches in 3 years, right?
yeah,
I mean,
Yeah.
that's a recipe for disaster. And I think Zach would tell you, or whoever, like Zach was a big Baker Mayfield guy, and I still think Baker could be good, and I think he's doing really well in Tampa. But he was never going to work in Cleveland. Why? Because they never could get it right on his timeline,
Right.
which is why they felt the need to go out and get Deshaun Watson, which hasn't worked out. Right? I mean, he's
Uh,
played, I think, like what? He played 6 games this year and 6 games last year. So he's played 12 games in three
and
years or something like that. Like,
it's the Watson. I mean, just hide your masseuses. But but I th- I think it's wild. Joe Flacco went from dad life to what he's doing now.
well, yeah. I mean, hey, give him credit, man. He stayed in shape. He stayed ready. He waited for his opportunity, and I mean, what the fuck? Like all the teams that passed on him, like because obviously he wasn't like hot commodity. The Browns got him in like week 12. Like he was sitting there all year,
I and
but you give him the thing that I think works, and like the Jets have to be kicking themselves a little bit because they
have to.
had him and they could have had him again, but they went with Zach Wilson. They believed in their guy, but he's obviously not the answer. But the thing that I think really is making this Browns team. I'm a huge Browns fan, by the way. So
That's why I got Heinz Field
yeah.
above me.
Uh,
But
you mean like what is it called now?
uh,
Fucking catch
ac,
up field or something?
ac, AccuSure.
Acusure, yeah, sure, yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
acupuncture field, yeah, acupuncture field.
yeah. I'm
Which they'll probably win this week and probably make the playoffs somehow because Tomlin's a goddamn wizard. But
yeah. And then Whopper hands, small hands, Kenny Pickett. I I don't know. That's what I'm saying. He's got tiny hands. That's why the
he
guy
does. He does have tiny hands. That's
and
true.
and that was something I got into an argument with somebody about in over DM. That is a former Steeler about he's going to be good. He's going to no. I'm telling you, I was
He's
never.
gonna
I
be
was.
trash.
I
They're gonna be
I was.
looking for a quarterback after this year.
Hmm.
And if they're lucky, Chicago will part ways with Justin Fields and somehow the Steelers will land him. If they're lucky.
You know where I think Justin Fields is going to go? I think he's going to go to Seattle.
Seattle? Ooh, okay. Hot take.
Uh,
I don't disagree. I think he's gonna go to Atlanta, personally. And I think Atlanta fits him. He's a Georgia boy, so
I think that's a good selling point, but I just there's
but he
some
doesn't have he doesn't have any control over where he goes. He'll go up to the highest bidder, unless Chicago is smart, which they're not. If Chicago is smart, they keep him.
oh, I am not above that.
They keep him. They trade down from that one spot again. They collect picks. They draft Marv or whoever, and they let somebody else go get Caleb Williams. Because if they take Caleb Williams, well, first of all, I'm not 100% sure that he goes there because I think he wants to go wherever the fuck he wants to go, and he has the means to do that now that NIL's a thing. But if he's smart, he doesn't go to Chicago. Nobody wants to go to Chicago.
No, because the franchise. Now I live in Bear Country up here in Fort Wayne. Tons of
Yeah.
Bears fans,
Mhm.
and the hardcore guys still want Lovey Smith to be the head coach in
Of course
Chicago.
they do. Of course they do. Because that's the last time they were relevant.
And I think it's telling because if you go back through and listen to Cutler, I know a lot of people don't like Jay, but I think Jay was what he was. And you listen to Erlacher speak, you listen to Lance
Mhm.
Briggs, you listen to the guys that were leaders in that room in Chicago. They'd have ran through the wall for Levy, and then you bring in Mark Trestman, not to dump on the CFL, but
Dump on them. You're
but
good.
I'm just saying that
It's a
there was
joke.
I mean how that would have been like that would have been like when Urban stepped away from Ohio State, we went and got fucking PJ Fleck.
Yeah. Or it would have been like when Cooper got fired and we went and got Jim Tressel. Oh.
Oh,
Right? Youngstown State guy? That's it. It
it's
worked out. But it wasn't a popular hire here.
no. A
But
lot I grew up 11 minutes from the state line in Indiana, so when I remember the game of the century and
yeah, I was there.
everybody thought, really, you were there?
I was there.
Everybody thought Ohio State was going to lose that.
Of
And
course.
I mean everybody. But
Yeah, for good reason,
and
right? Because they hadn't proven they could beat a real team.
yeah.
But so it's funny because my grandfather is Jim Tressel is like he's a hero. Like he's thought of with heroism in Columbus, and I love Jim Tressel more than like he's a great person. He's a great coach, but when the job was being discussed, my grandfather went to the AD and he pounded the table for Glenn Mason out of Minnesota because Glenn Mason was also an Ohio State guy. He was a Buckeye and he had proven himself at a larger level. They decided to go with Tressel. Now, Tressel was also an Ohio State guy, worked for my grandfather. And so we all loved Jim Tressel. And did it turn out to be the right hire? For sure. 100%, obviously. He completely turned that program around. But there was a lot of Columbus that was not happy about that. They didn't think that that was the right hire. But hindsight's 2020. You can say now it obviously was. So same thing with the Bears. Like you can get rid of Lovey Smith because he's not doing well, and you hire this guy out of the CFL who clearly hindsight again 2020. Clearly we know he wasn't the right guy, but they made a bold move and it didn't work out.
Right. And that's that's the biggest thing when it comes to the day regime that I argue with people about. They say, let's get rid of Ryan Day. Okay, the guy's like 48 and like 46 and 7 or 8 or
Yeah, yeah. He's got I
something.
think 8 losses now. Yeah.
And if you look at the teams that he's lost to, it's tough, but
What he beats everybody he's supposed to beat, right?
mhm,
He only loses games that are toss ups, right? That are like, hey, he should beat this Michigan team, but he didn't. Or he should beat this Clemson team, but he didn't. The biggest problem with Ryan Day right now is that he continues to keep, let me say this politically, uh, he continues to hire and keep people on staff that have no experience coaching football ever. So if you look at the defensive staff, right?
mhm.
He brought in Jim Knowles, gave full control to Jim Knowles, said, hey, it's your staff, it's your defense, run it. What did Jim Knowles do? He brought in Perion Eliano. He brought in all kinds of people that have coached football, right? They have proven themselves as football coaches. And what did the defense do this year? They were top 5, top 10. I mean, top 10 minimally. And they were a really great defense. What has Ryan Day done with the offensive staff? Elevate people that have never coached anywhere else to position coaches, right? So the only 2 coaches on staff right now on the offensive staff that have ever coached football anywhere other than Ohio State are Tony Alford and Justin Fry. Every other position coach, offensive coordinator, has never coached football in their life.
That would
Yeah, go ahead.
well, I'm just saying, I know it's an unpopular opinion, but if you have somebody that's an offensive coordinator, but when I called in to the call-in show on Minnesota Sports, I said that this problem did not start at the beginning of the season. It started, and this is, I don't know how people are going to take this, but this problem started in the springtime when
for sure.
you upgraded. Devin got hurt. You upgraded Hartline to offensive coordinator. And then we all know the incident that happened the night of the spring game, and an unfortunate incident. There's a 911 call out there.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just saying that you cannot have things like that go on leading into your probably the second biggest season in your tenure at Ohio State, because you lost to the team up north twice. You just did it a third time. Your offensive coordinator that you're paying $93,000 a month, which some of that's taxpayer money, is flipping UTVs, got his call sheet in his pants. I just, it's tough.
Yeah, and I'll push back a little bit on that because all that aside, right? Like I don't give a fuck what you do in your personal life. Honestly, I don't.
No.
You can flip every UTV you want. You can get drunk as fuck. I don't care. Bottom line is you elevated a guy to offense coordinator that has never called a single play in his life. And then turn around and take the play calling back because he can't call a play. So now your head coach has to be the head coach. He has to be the offense coordinator. And also, I mean, and he has to be the quarterback's coach.
Yep.
So, I mean, that's too many hats for one man to wear. Like at this level, like you can't do all those things, and that is why the product on the field is what it is because Ryan Day is trying to do everything. He is trying to coach the entire offense himself because he doesn't have anybody that can take it off his plate. And Tony Alford is a great running backs coach, is a great recruiter, is a great personality to have in the locker room. But Tony Alford is not trying to be the offensive coach because you didn't elevate him, first of all. Second of all, he's at a stage in his career where it's just not what he wants to do. Like he wants to be a running backs coach. He wants to recruit running backs, right? Or recruit his area, whatever it is. You have Justin Fry, who's the associate head coach, but he's new, right? Like you just brought him in this year. You can't expect him to run the offense for you. So Ryan has to do all of these things, and he's got to try to maintain a culture. He's got to try to maintain a program. He's got to try to fight NIL. He's got to try to fight the transfer portal. Like you just physically can't do all that. Which is why if they don't hire an offensive coordinator this offseason, Ohio State fans should be very, very concerned.
And this is a caveat. No matter what you want to say about Michigan, going into 2021, Harbaugh gave up play calling. And look at
Yep.
exponentially how better the program got. And
Mm-hmm.
and I've heard Zach, this Ed Warner, and see that's something that people don't know on a big level about the inner workings, I would say, from after the national championship until 2017.
Mm-hmm.
The inner workings, which you were around, all the
Yeah.
inner workings, and Zach's talked about it at length, and all of those things that
Yeah.
transpired going into there, because he
Mm-hmm.
broke it down one time and said, if you look at Urban's day one staff from 2012 and you look at his last year, there's hardly any faces there.
Yeah. I mean, that there's hard there is totally different, right? Because the reason that urban staff left was because majority of them got elevated to other positions elsewhere, right?
Mm,
So you when you build a great staff like he did, like Urban did. I mean, Urban had in 2012 through probably 2014, Urban had probably the best coaching staff in college football, right? And that's why they were so successful. That's why, they won whatever it was, 28 in a row before they lost to Michigan State in 2013. That's why, they had, and every time they lost somebody, they would bring in somebody like Kevin Wilson, right? Former head coach, brought him in. He's been a coach. They didn't elevate people. They didn't go, oh, hey, you've been a GA for us and you've never coached before. Here's the quarterback room or here's the wide receiver room. Like he brought people in to continue that.
right.
Now, he elevated the wrong person in 2015 for sure. Ed
Hmm.
Warner, and at least from what I know, Ed Warner, really good O line coach. Really good.
And this
But
this
you
is
go ahead.
just this is just from what I've heard Zach say. Ed Warner, great offensive line coach. Guy
Mm-hmm.
couldn't spit a play out. He said there was a meeting before the national championship, and I'm pretty sure he's talked about this on the show, that him and right before Tom Herman left, which horns down,
Yeah.
um, right before Tom had left, he said it was just him and Tom going over the third down game plan. And he said he looked at Tom and said, he's really not going to have Ed run the offense next year, right? And he said, Tom laughed and said, no, I don't think so. Lo and
Yeah,
behold,
no, that's real. That's 100% because both of them knew.
and it's
I
telling,
mean,
it's
look at
telling,
2015. That's all you need to do.
yeah. And it's telling to me that I think it was a bowl prep game. Braxton
Mhm.
Miller still has Ed Warner getting kicked in the side of the head with a football because I'm pretty sure it's still pinned on his Twitter page. It's been up there for years of Ed Warner getting hit in the side of the head with a football on practice tape. I mean, I
Yeah.
what I think would help Ryan Day a lot. It might be unpopular, but bring in a Steve Adazio.
That's not a bad it's not a bad pick. I mean, that's not going to happen, unfortunately. But he definitely needs to bring somebody in because what he has right now, offensively, he has a bunch of. I mean, we can throw it back to Minnesota sports. He has a bunch of cousins. Like
Yep.
it's just a bunch of dudes that he's elevated. Like he doesn't have a single guy in that room that can call a play. Not one.
That's probably not off base.
And so like thank God he has Jim Knowles.
Yeah.
Do you know what a disaster this program would be if he didn't have Jim Knowles right now?
And look at the amount of defensive guys coming back.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
And
mean, it,
that's a testament to their coaches. That's a testament to I mean, honestly, like the guys that are coming back, in all likelihood, should probably come back, right? Like there's nobody coming back where you're like, oh, you would have been a top 10 pick. Like Marv's not coming back, right? Because he's a top 10 pick. Lathan Ransom is coming back because he could be not a top 10 pick, but a first rounder if he comes back. Otherwise, you're talking day two. Like he's and Latham's really good. Denzel Burke, he would sniff the first round for sure. He would be probably a late first rounder, but he also has the opportunity to come back. And the coaches that they have at secondary right now, he could be that next top 10 pick. That's a corner, right? He could be that Denzel Ward, that Lattimore. That I mean, there were a lot of them in a row, and then it fell off. But he definitely could. If he comes back and has a great year, he could be a top 10 pick, which is what he's fully dedicated to doing, which is why he's going to come back. Same with Travion Henderson. Travion Henderson is coming back for one reason and one reason only, because he believes he's a first round back. And the reason that he believes coming back will elevate him to that is because of Tony Alford. That's it.
mm-hmm.
And Tony will get him there. I mean, Tony's done it with Zeke, JK. Like the track record's there.
And I just feel like, because heading into last season, it was, we got to fix the defense, got to fix the defense, got to fix the defense. Well, this year the defense showed up and balled out, and the offense didn't. They couldn't play dead in the Western. And you have Marv, you have Emeka, and as
that's a great point. Which is something that Ryan's never dealt with before, right? Because it was always Ryan is the offensive guru, right? And he is. I'm not taking anything away from him, but it was always, God, if our defense would have been better, we would have beat Team Up North or whoever. And that's true. And this year it was, shit, if our quarterback was better, we would have beat Team Up North. We would have been in the playoff.
And with bringing that up again, going into this offseason, the spring, and next year, if he does not win that game, I think he's out.
He's cooked. He's cooked. He's cooked, and he knows it. He's done. I mean, trust me.
I mean, if you go back and watch his press conference, I don't know if you've seen it or not, but after
I probably have, but yeah.
After they lost that game, he looked like the weight of the world was just on top of him.
Yeah, and as he should, because it is. It is. Now, I've been around this rivalry my entire life. Like I lived it. I wasn't around when my grandfather coached, but I saw John Cooper. Now, John Cooper got a long leash because he did exactly what Ryan does. He recruits really well. They have really good teams. But if you can't beat the team up north, you're done, bro. That's it. That's it. Because, and especially now the good thing for Ryan is the playoff is expanding to 12 teams. So even if he doesn't beat Michigan, he's going to get in the playoff. And I think they'll make a run no matter what. They could be the 8 seed. It doesn't matter. They'll make a run. They'll make it to the quarterfinal, semifinal, maybe the final, and that could save his job. But I think he's got 1 year to get it right. And his best friend isn't going to be there anymore. Gene Smith is done as of July like 1st or whatever. Like he's done. He's out. They're going to have a new AD, and that new AD is going to have one mission: make the university as much money as possible. And that new AD, unless they hire somebody from within the organization, is going to have zero loyalty to Ryan Day.
And I think with the new AD coming in, that's why I think this is his prove it year.
Mm-hmm.
Because if he does not get this thing right, he's out. And all the cousins are going to need to be finding new jobs. And I also think that there's a guy
yeah.
on the sidelines that is itching to get back into coaching that's sitting on the panel at Fox Big Game Day.
Well, let me put that to rest for you. That's not happening.
You don't think he's going to come out of retirement?
No. Oh, I do. Not at Ohio State.
No, not. He ain't coming back
Yeah.
to Ohio State, but
Yeah. No, yeah. I do think he'll coach again. It's not going to be Ohio State. But that brings me to.
Oh, yes. Now, if he.
Marcus also has 1 year to figure it out. Because he's also a coach that had never been a head coach. And he got handed a program that, listen, you will not get any praise from me for Brian Kelly. Okay.
Oh, no.
But he was handed a program that was in pretty good shape. As much as I despise Brian Kelly, he was handed a program that was in pretty good shape. And for him to have lost, he lost 4 games his first year, 3 games this year, I think. That's unacceptable.
Oh, believe me, I go up there to a couple game days. I was up there tailgating for the Marshall game, and it was.
Yeah, you lose to Marshall. Oof.
It was.
He was lucky. It was his first year.
And then the following week, they played a tough game against Cal that they almost lost. It
Yeah.
was almost, they were ready to fire that guy after the Cal game, even though he won.
Oh, for sure. That's why he has 1 year too. Now, I don't believe that Urban Meyer is going to go to Notre Dame. I don't think that'll happen. As a Notre Dame fan, I hope it does. But no, I think Urban most likely is done. I think if he takes a job, it'll be a very specific situation. But I think in all likelihood, he's probably done. He just, especially with the way things are now with the NIL and the transfer portal, I think those old type coaches are getting out. Like I mean, Saban's probably going to retire, not this year, but in the next 2 years. I would say Saban's out. I would be shocked if Urban got back into coaching, just because he doesn't want to deal with this shit.
The only job I could see him taking is a job that has an unlimited amount of resources and that will let him operate like he did at Ohio State.
Yeah. Yeah, which is that's very few jobs. Because I don't even know. Like, I mean, Notre Dame is not putting up NIL money. They're not. Like, that's why they're.
I wouldn't
Ohio
say
State's not. Texas A&M is, but like
it's not jiving down there. But I don't know how Elko's gonna do down there.
Yeah.
But
I think he'll be all right. I mean, you're talking about competing now, especially you're talking about competing with Oklahoma and Texas every single year, not only just on the field but in the recruiting front. Like,
And it's tough because Old Miss is, I'm telling you, Lane Kiffin is going to be good next year.
oh no, I think Ole Miss will be really good. Lane Kiffin is somebody that I could see stepping into a bigger role. Not at Ole Miss, obviously he's the head guy, but I could see, and I all these Ohio State fans are like, oh, fire Ryan Day, bring Kiffin in.
No,
It's not going to work. It's not going to
nope.
work. Ohio State is just behind the eight ball when it comes to uh, NIL, and
NIL.
yeah, they're just not as up to par as the Southern schools, which is fine. They don't want to be. Like if they wanted, there's plenty of money in Columbus, Ohio. Trust me, there's plenty of money. It's that they don't want to do it that way, so they're not going to.
Well, I also think another issue with NIL and everything transpiring, it's hard to go to a donor that gives $1 million a year and say, "Can you kick in another million for NIL?" And I think the athletic fund in the endow, the people that
Yeah.
handle those funds are going to push back towards the NIL people because then you're cutting into their money because
Yep. Yeah.
football, basketball, they pay for everything.
Hmm.
Everything.
Well, the thing that hurts Ohio State is they have too many sports. They have too many sports that need funded. There's only one, maybe two. Like men's basketball probably covers itself, but there's only one sport that pays the bill for all the sports, and that's Ohio State football. That's it. Everything else operates on a loss. I promise you. And they count on the football program to generate that income so that they can have a rifle team, so that they can have every other sport in the world, and to go to, I mean, I don't know for sure that he's the biggest booster, but let's just use him as an example. Les Wexner,
Yeah.
to go to him and be like, hey, I know you donate X amount of dollars a year, let's call it 10 million, but we're going to need you to up that to 15 so that our football program can be legit. Well, the booster is going to be like, couldn't you just maybe reallocate some of those funds that I'm already donating
Mhm.
and not have a rifle team? Like, I don't know. Like, I don't see the rifle team doing a lot for the university. I'm sure doing a lot, donating 10 million. Right. And so it's just it gets tough when you have those boosters, and especially Ohio State has a lot of big time boosters, but the difference, at least in my mind, between like them and Miami right now is that a lot of the Ohio State boosters are old time boosters, right? They're older. They are not trying to get into this game of giving a high school senior $1 million to come to Ohio State.
And
Miami is all, at least in my opinion, it's all like kind of newer money, right? Like new money, right? They're sitting there like, I don't give a fuck about Miami's rifle team. Like they don't even have one.
yeah,
I'm trying to get this football team to be legit again because when I was a fan back in 1990,
they
Miami
were.
was the shit,
Yep.
and I want that back. Whereas Ohio State's boosters are like, we've always been good. I don't need to donate more.
Coach better.
Exactly. Like I don't know, recruit better.
I,
Like figure it the fuck out, man. I'm not trying
mhm.
to. I'm not trying to do that. And so I think that's kind of, and hopefully, I mean, hopefully for Ohio State's sake, all of this gets regulated
Oh,
because
in my opinion, with the NIL, I think it's a recipe for disaster because put yourself in your shoes when you were a senior in high school. If somebody gave you 500K,
Oh,
what?
bro, I'm going to the biggest bag. I don't care. I don't give a shit about anybody else. I'm going to the biggest bag because there's no guarantees in life, right?
No.
So if I'm a high school senior that's a 5 star, 4 star, whatever, if somebody offers me 500K, $1 million to go to their school, I'm taking it
Oh, yeah.
because I'm not about to sit here and be like, nah, you know what? I'll take 100K and I'll go to Ohio State because they can develop me for the pros. No, I'm betting on myself. I'm good enough to go to the pros anyways, so I'm good. I'm gonna take this bag. That way, if I don't get to the pros, I already got this money.
Hmm. And then if it don't work out at this school, I'll just hop in the transfer portal and
I
deuces.
got a free transfer. Like, what are you talking about? I can go wherever I want, whenever I want.
Hmm.
It's silly. And I am not like I'm a huge believer in the free market. I don't believe in regulation. I think most government regulation is fucking terrible for business.
Oh,
But
anytime you try to regulate anything, and especially the NCAA trying to do anything,
yeah,
I I don't I don't see it working. I mean, if you invoke Tressel, if you look at what Tressel got fired for, that's all legal now.
bro.
It's all legal.
What Tressel got fired for is, I mean, God, it's so laughable now because we're on the other side of it, right? Like we've seen it play out. And I mean, I was close friends with a guy that got in trouble for that. He was part of it. And it's just like, what, they sold their fucking gold pants? Like, I'm sorry. Is that not allowed? I guess not. But now it's like, what do you mean? They got tattoos for free because of their name? Oh, okay, that's cool.
I mean, it just
They didn't even do a commercial. Nowadays, you could have Marvin Harrison go get a tattoo tomorrow. He'd do a commercial for the damn tattoo shop that did it, and it would all be legal.
and there'd be a line around the fucking block.
Exactly. But back then, nah, can't do that.
And and to me it just blows me away that they villainized Tressel.
Mhm.
And another thing that sticks in my craw is Troy Smith won a Heisman,
Yeah.
and he's nowhere on the Heisman commercials.
Yep. You know how
It,
many number 10 jerseys they sold?
oh, that dude he'd never have to do anything. Or number 7, Ted Gins.
Yeah. I'll never forget the guy, who was it?
Number 13, Maurice Coleret.
And I think it was James Ornitis. They were selling 33 jerseys. And they obviously couldn't put the name on the back, right? Because that would make it illegal.
Hmm.
But they're selling 33 jerseys. And he's like, I mean, that's me. Y'all ain't paying me to sell that jersey. What the fuck? Like,
Oh, and that's just like you got. They stopped all the college football games and all that stuff like
uh,
that. And I mean, it's
which let's hope for the sake of everybody. Let's hope that comes back this year, man.
oh,
Like, it's supposed to. I know there's some stuff going on. They're supposed to release a new like announcement on Monday. Man, I just need NCAA football back. Like, I just need it back. Like,
I I'm not gonna lie. I still have a PS3, and I went out and bought college football 14.
NCAA 14, yeah.
Oh yeah, NCAA 14.
Yeah, I was gonna say with fucking Lil Wayne playing football on the cover.
Yeah, paid $100 for it.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure that that's that's actually a pretty good deal.
Exactly. Compared to like Amazon, if you get like a brand new copy of it, it's like
Yeah, oh
$369. And
yeah.
and which we're fairly close in age because
Yeah.
I'll be 31 this year. It like NCAA football hopping on the sticks with the guys, that was huge
Oh,
back.
dude, that was I'll never forget it. I mean, I grew up playing that game. All right. So like my brothers and I have two older brothers. Obviously, Zach's one of them. I mean, we used to have dynasties, right? Where like you start from the bottom, build your way up. So like I forget, I think I started with SMU or something like that, and then you got offers because you're the coach, right? You got offers to other positions, other jobs, and I mean the amount of like, I mean, just kids being kids, right? The amount of like
Oh,
holes in the wall, like controllers that were broken, like
oh
that kind
yeah.
of stuff. Like it was heated.
And and I think that's why the guys that are probably 30 to 40 right now,
Mhm.
they have tons of stories, and I think that's what galvanized you as a college football fan
Oh, for sure.
because you could do so much, you knew the teams, and in this landscape of college football, that's just like Oregon, Washington, UCLA, USC, and the Big 10. Like, come on.
Yeah, that's weird. But yeah, no, 100%. I mean, NCAA football, like the video game, and that's why I always told like I have a good friend of mine who is always like, man, the NFL's better. And I was like, no,
No.
it's not. No, it's not. College football is it, dude. Like, and it's because I grew up playing Madden, but I really grew up playing NCAA, right? Like, I
Oh,
grew up playing that game, right? Like, my brothers and I, we never had franchises in Madden. Now, maybe it's because we're Browns fans and the Browns sucked, but
but
but regardless,
I mean, whenever they started adding new features into it to where you could do Road to
oh, dude,
Glory and then you could
oh,
transfer your guy over, I mean,
oh, and like, and this is just me being like a I don't know, like a football head or whatever. But like recruiting,
oh yeah.
bro, when you can start recruiting, I was like, oh, here we go. This
Oh
is
yeah.
awesome. I can sway their opinion. Oh, okay, let's go.
Oh yeah. I mean, and and I think this generation of kids was robbed of that
Yeah, for
because
sure, for sure.
because I mean, the first ever NCAA football game I got was NCAA 2004 with Carson Palmer on the front.
Okay, yeah,
And you could run you had Herb Street breaking down how to run the triple option and all that stuff. I
yeah.
mean,
Hmm.
that was it.
Yeah,
And then it just progressively got better, and then all of a sudden the music stopped.
yeah. It just was taken away. No, nobody let you know either. Like I remember, I got NCAA 14, and I was like, "Oh, this is cool." Like, I mean, I was a little bit older at that point, so like I still was like playing it. And then all of a sudden, it was just like, "When's NCAA 15 come out?" And they're like, "Man, it's not."
Yeah.
Like, damn.
And then you had college basketball in there too. You could
Oh
play March
yeah.
Madness. I mean, it
Oh,
just it was the whole generation robbed.
robbed, robbed. I mean, because that's 10 years. I mean,
Mhm.
that's a decade of just nothing,
Oh yeah. And
and that's
and
how we got Fortnite.
yeah. 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 And well, thanks to
But
NI, the only thing NIL will do is hopefully it brings back college football.
yeah, I'm for it. I mean, I let's hope so.
I mean, if they announce it that day, I'm going out and buying a PS5 and that.
Absolutely, hundred
I
percent. Like I don't know, Xbox Series, whatever. Like I don't know. I'll get one of them, and I will pre-order the NCAA game immediately.
mhm. And so, well, we were at the Menace event. So you went to the University of Kentucky?
I did. Yeah, I went there for 2 years before I transferred back to Ohio State.
Ah, gotcha. So
Yeah.
were you down there? Were you and Zach down there at the same time?
No, no, he's a little older than me.
Ah,
But
yeah.
no, I was down there. So my freshman year was the year before John Calipari got hired. And
Mm,
so my sophomore year was the year Calipari came in when I was still down there. And that was the year when like John Wall and all those guys came in. And really, I'm not a huge college basketball fan, but I'm a massive Kentucky fan. So I watch as many Kentucky games as I can. I live in Columbus, so it's not everyone. But I mean, Kentucky basketball. I like growing up in Columbus. I learned at a young age what college football was, right? Because college football is life in Columbus. Like there's nothing else. And I went to Kentucky, and I was like, oh yeah, you guys want to go to the football game? And everybody was like, football? What the fuck are you talking about? And then basketball season rolled around. They're like, hey, you want to go to the basketball game? I was like, who cares about basketball, man? And they're like, oh no, you got to go. And so I went to some games, and the easiest way I can explain it to anybody is Kentucky basketball fans are exactly what Ohio State football fans are. And
that's
it is the most diehard, like I it's insane.
I have living in Indiana.
Okay, yeah.
The majority of us were Ohio State football fans,
Indiana basketball.
Indiana basketball. I'm telling you, there were times whenever Indiana was good, we went down there and watched when Zeller and
Hmm.
Oladipo were there. You would
Oh yeah.
you would never think that an alley hoop dunk would just blow the roof off of something.
Oh yeah. For
And
sure.
going down to Assembly Hall was always fun. And
Yeah.
the quietest kept secret about Indiana football is the tickets are cheap. So if you get on the
Yeah.
season ticket list, you can always get the all the home games. So like one year we got Nebraska, Iowa, Ohio State. It was awesome.
Yeah, that is. No, that's what everybody like. If you went to Ohio State, you know how hard it is to get student tickets for football, right?
Oh,
Because it's a lottery. It's, I mean, you're not guaranteed. Like, you can be one of the 100,000 kids that go to Ohio State. You're not getting tickets.
oh,
You get a lottery, and if you win the lottery, you get like 4 games, maybe 2 games, whatever it is. And that's the same way it was at Kentucky. So we had a lottery, and I'll never forget. I went down to, so it's called Big Blue Madness. It was at midnight on, God, I don't even remember. It's like one of the first weeks that you go back to school because it's the first practice they're allowed to have as a basketball team.
oh, really?
And yeah, and so it's called Midnight Madness. That's what it is. And if you go to Kentucky, you can get in line to get a ticket to it.
What?
And this is a practice, bro. Like I'm talking about, like they run out there. Everybody, like the year I went was 2009 or whatever. So it was John Wall's freshman year, and it's a practice. Like all they do is practice. But everybody, like there's 50,000 people stand in line for a 25,000 seat arena to try to get into this thing. And I got in because I was with like some other students. We got tickets, and we were there, and we're sitting there, and like they start practicing. And we're like, man, where the hell's John Wall? Like John Wall was the like,
Oh yeah, I remember.
yeah. And all of a sudden, the lights shut off. And we were like, what is going on? And from the rafters, bro, from the rafters, this thing starts to descend. And we were like, what is that? It was John Wall on a platform just doing his
Yeah. Yeah.
John Wall dance. And he descended from the rafters of the arena for a practice. And we were like, oh, this is it, man. We are good. And we went to the Elite Eight that year, lost to stupid ass West Virginia. Fuck them. But but it was like that's the level of insanity down there. And that's if Ohio State did something like that for football, it would be the same.
That's something that I've heard is that the game day atmosphere is lacking at the shoe.
Mm,
And
that's fair.
the with the basketball story, the big game every year was the game right before Halloween at Indiana. They called it the Haunted Hoops.
Mm-hmm.
If they have a home game, it's always at noon, and directly after the home game, you can go in and watch the team scrimmage for basketball. So,
Exactly. Yeah.
and they played Northwestern that year, and I waited too long to where I almost didn't get in, but I got in. But I hung out to get a Pat Fitzgerald autograph.
R.I.P.
Yeah, which with that situation is it's wild. Um, I don't know how that's going to pan out, but
Yeah.
that's going to be a legal battle. But you know,
Oh, for sure.
and 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 we went in and watched the Haunted Hoops. It was like Derek Elston, Cody Zeller, Will Sheehy, Oladipo,
Yeah.
all those guys that went in there and just it was awesome. You would have never thought that there was a football game that day because there was still people tailgating in the parking lot while that was going on and watching it on local TV because they put it on TV. They put a scrimmage on TV in Bloomington.
Of course, that tracks.
And so, I mean, that's what it is. It's wild times,
Yes, sir.
and who would ever thought that you know that people would want to see that, and your uh your brother sometimes on the show will bust out in the cats 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 chant,
Oh yeah, he
which
does that just for me.
which that's funny stuff. Which man, what was that like when he was coaching at Florida or being a GA at Florida? Were you going down for games and stuff?
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. So I mean, it was really cool, honestly. Like it was. I used to go visit him. At one point, I was looking at getting into coaching as well, so I would go down and spend weeks at a time down there. Um, got to know some of the guys really well. I mean, one of my favorite things uh, going down there was like there were certain coaches that were just different, right? Like all of them were high level coaches. Like Dan Mullen was a high level offensive mind, right? Uh, but the difference was like I've met Urban Meyer, I don't know, 100 times in my life, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. But he could literally be sitting across the table from me right now and be like, "Who the hell are you?"
Oh,
But there were certain coaches like my favorite coach from Florida staff, bar none, was Charlie Strong.
yeah.
So I met Charlie Strong my senior year of high school when I went down and visited my brother, and I met him for like 2.5 seconds. Like my brother was like, "Hey, this is my brother Carter." Like I was like, "Hey, nice to meet you." Right. I went back 2 years later, and I was trying to find my brother. Like he was busy doing stuff. I was walking around the athletic complex, like just trying to find my brother. Charlie Strong walks out of a room and was just like, "Hey, Carter, what are you doing?" And I was like, "Dude, I'm just trying to find Zach." And he's like, "Oh, he's right over here," and just took me to Zach. But the thing about it was like, you know how many motherfuckers that guy meets every day? Like the fact
Oh,
that he remembered me from 2 years ago was like mind blowing to me. Because again, I like Urban, anybody else, like I've met them hundreds of times, whatever it is, and they would be like, "Who are you?" But like Charlie was like, "Hey Carter, like, what are you doing? You need to find Zach? Yeah, I got you, bro. Let's go." And it's just like there were certain coaches that were like different like that. Like Steve Adazio is another one. He just had a different. He just was different, man. Like they just, I don't know if it was, I don't want to say they cared more, but they just had a different mindset about stuff.
mm. Now, did you ever get to go down to go over to Marshall or Temple at all?
Mhm. Oh yeah. I went both places. So when Zach took the job at Marshall, I stayed, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks with him and helped him fix up his house, like get it ready for, because at the time that he took the Marshall job, his ex-wife was pregnant with their first child. So she was in Columbus. We went down. I stayed there for, I don't know, a couple weeks and just helped him get the house ready and make sure that everything was up to date, like make sure that everything was ready for when the baby came. At that time, he was obviously coaching, and so I'd go to practice with him. I'd go, talk to whoever at that point. And then when he was at Temple, I went there a couple. I think I only went there twice, like a couple times. But that was when I met Andy Reid's son. He was on staff at Temple, and so I got to hang out with him a little bit and just. I mean, Temple. I love Temple. It was not in a great area, but it was a lot of fun. And so yeah, I mean, I met a lot of people through that.
And how was what was it like when he got the job at Ohio State?
So that was, yeah. That, I mean, it was surreal. Like, I mean, so before he officially got the job, I think he told this story on his podcast the other day, actually. He had been offered the job well before he got the job. So he left his job at Temple. Steve Adazio was the head coach at the time at Temple, and had told him like, "No, you're not coming back here. Like you're done. You're going to Ohio State." And Urban had officially taken the job at Ohio State, and then a couple months later, we were all gathered. My grandmother had passed away, and so we were at her funeral. Zach had like hinted at the fact that he might be getting the wide receivers job at Ohio State, but it wasn't for sure, or like, eh. And Urban was at my grandmother's funeral because Urban's was a
Hmm.
close family friend, and so he came to the funeral, and uh, we were all just sitting in kind of the back room where the family gathers when like things are slow or whatever. And Urban was back there, and Urban looked at my grandfather and was like, "Hey, uh, should I go ahead and do it?" And my grandfather, of course, was like, "Yeah." And so he looked at Zach and he's like, "Hey, Zach, I just want you to know, I want you to be the wide receivers coach at Ohio State." And Zach was like, obviously accepted. Was like, "Thank you so much. Like, this is a great opportunity for me." So, but that was the first like I learned about it. Like, I again heard like rumblings or whatever. Like, my brother was like, "Yeah, it might happen. It might not. You never know." But it was a kind of a surreal thing because it just brought things full circle, right? Like we grew up kind of connected to Ohio State because of my grandfather, and then to have my brother get that job was like, oh, this is connecting us again, right? Like, and as you can tell, I'm a Notre Dame fan, but I became the biggest Ohio State fan you'll ever meet. And my friends give me shit all the time. They're like, "Dude, I don't know who you're a fan of," and I'm like, "I'm a fan of whoever pays my brother." Like I was a Florida fan, I was a Temple fan, I was a Marshall fan, I was an Ohio State fan. Like whoever is employing my brother, that's number one. But it was a cool moment. It really was. And to have him on the sidelines at Ohio State, where obviously there's historic things there, it was a really cool, like kind of surreal thing.
That's awesome, man. And it's just, it's, whenever it comes to stories, it's just always wild how things turn out.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I would have told you 10 years ago he'd be running a podcast, and I mean, like the event we went to, I mean, it was just packed. There wasn't a seat to be had,
Mm-hmm.
and that was on a Friday at
Yeah.
noon.
Yeah.
And like I traveled down there, and I think that I just, with being politically correct, a lot of the people when all of that happened are just fucked up.
Fair. That's fair. So like if you would have told me 10 years ago that he'd be running a podcast, you're right. I'd have been like, no. Like 10 years ago, if you'd have told me he'd be the head coach of X program, yeah, I believe that because that's the duty he is. Um, now, if you would have told me 3 years ago, or 4 years ago, or 5 years ago, whenever everything went down and he got fired, that he would be running a podcast and he would have an event like that, I would have looked you in the eye and been like, "You're goddamn right he would," because you know what? And the only thing, not the only, I mean, he's my brother, so, but if there's one thing I know about him, it's that no matter what he does, he's gonna do it and it's gonna be massive. Like that's just what he does. That he as a coach, if he was gonna and he could have been, but if he was gonna coach, he's gonna coach and he's gonna get the best players and he's gonna be a massive success. Like that's just how he is. That's who he is. So when he came to me and was like, I want to do a podcast because I think but I was on the podcast early on. Um, I always knew that he is just man, the way his mind works is different. He's just different, and it's always gonna be like that way for him because that's just how he is,
And it's always everything's trending up.
right?
And the
Even when it's not, like you could a lot of people would take that getting fired from Ohio State or whatever, and that's a like he was on this trajectory as a coach, and then he got fired, right? But he's going to take that and he's going to build it back to where it's back to this. Like that's just what he does.
because I found the podcast during COVID, and I'm like, all right, let me get into this and see the nuts and
Yeah,
bolts of this. And the thing is like him and Chris, they've done nothing but help me.
yeah,
They just do nothing but help at every avenue of, like, if I ask him a question, he'll give me a straightforward answer, be like, no,
hmm,
you should do this and this.
yeah. I
So
mean, that's just him, man. He, and again, like, am I biased? Probably a little. Like, he's my brother, but like he everything he touches, it'll find its way.
turns to gold. and
Yeah, right.
and I mean, it's wild. I mean, I can't believe we've been rolling for an hour and a half.
Oh shit, have we really? Yeah,
Yeah,
you're right.
yeah, we've been rolling for an hour and a half, just. And
Well,
like when I met you at the event, I mean, I thought we hit it off, and I'm not shocked we don't have that many people watching, but it is what
yeah,
it
that's
is.
fine.
You
I'm not
always got
worried about it.
you got to got to start somewhere. I figured out StreamYard. That
There you
was
go.
that.
Hey, we'll have to do it again for sure.
Yeah, I gotta gotta get it rolling, and yeah, just let me know whenever you want to get it back going. I got Richie commenting. He
Oh
wants
shit.
he's watching. He wants to know if you've been wearing that Notre Dame pullover for the past week.
No, no, I just put it on tonight, Richie. But I appreciate you.
Yeah, always appreciate Richie. Always show
But
the love and support
I
for Richie.
I keep that Notre Dame stuff on me. All right.
Oh yeah, but yeah,
Good deal, bro.
I'll have to say I've ran out of material
No,
I
you're
uh,
good. Yeah. No,
that I
I didn't realize it's been an hour and a half. That's wild.
yeah, and I just off the head I didn't write anything down at all. I
Yeah,
just I just thought about it whenever I went and got something to eat earlier. I just went and got something to eat. And I said, all right, I picked
yeah.
his brain a little bit, and
Let's let it roll. No, we'll do it again, man. I appreciate you having me on. I appreciate your support of Zach and everything that he does. So anytime, man, just hit me up. Do it again.
yeah. Richie wants to know if I can outdrink Zach. I mean, I have a beard. You have a beard. He has no beard.
That's an obvious question, man.
I mean, you can't outbeard us, man.
No, not a chance.
We'll just be the bearded podcast. We're the It's not like we're the bearded clams or anything, but the bearded podcast. But
There you go. I like it. Good deal, dude.
all right, man, I'm gonna end the stream. Richie, thanks for watching. Anybody else out there, thanks for watching. We're live on YouTube and Twitter. Uh, hit the like and subscribe. As Zach says, be a friend, tell a friend.
There you go.
All right, Carter. Thanks again, man. I'm gonna end the stream and I'll hit you up,
Hey,
man.
sounds good, man. Have a good one. Everybody watching, have a good one.
Yep.